Okay, you want to introduce yourself, Kevin?
Hi, my name's Kevin Rossborough.
And tell us more about yourself.
Well, I'm from.
About Elan.
I was. I'm 55. I was born in 1963. On the same day as Trump, June 14th. That's. I'm really mixed about that. Elan's fault. No, I was in Elan for my senior year, basically, for high school in 1980 to 81. I graduated in 81. And I was sent there. Really, I think overreaction and knee-jerk, get him fixed up and sent to all the best places we can for something that now, because I wasn't doing any real illicit drugs. I wasn't. I was doing marijuana. That's pretty much it. And as far as that goes, I think that my father, the one that was pretty much in charge of me, was a lot to blame, because it was totally mixed signals. One minute he's doling out my pot for the weekend to go over to my friend's house. Little inconsistency, I guess, there.
That sounds like a problem.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you're sent away for doing the same thing. So it was just total, and I had resentments automatically for being, and my siblings, they know that the people that were getting sent to these institutions, like the Seed, like these brainwashing, intense, crazy techniques that these nutbags happen to come up with. Like, I think this will work. Beat him with the clock. I think that's working good. He'll stop doing. Look, the place was in a madhouse, ran by nutbags. And the more I look back on it, I think that it was a travesty on a lot of different levels, from life and death, because I was a night owl, and this kid that, to me, I really thought he seemed very normal. The only reason that I think he's alive, or was alive, because I noticed a big puddle of blood that had dripped through the mattress because he had cut his wrist and swallowed 8 razor blades.
What house were you in?
This was I was just night owling at the one just down, it was like a trailer.
In Poland Springs?
Yes.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's just down the way.
Right.
Yeah. So, because at the end, I pretty much had my own apartment down there. I had my own room, I had my own shower.
How'd you
Not
work,
from like when I
how'd
started.
you work that out?
I'm not sure, really. I ended up, working it. I just thought it was one of the perks that came with being a senior coordinator, or whenever I got moved into that little nice apartment, compared to being in those.
Now, you told me in one of our earlier conversations that you used to tour the country doing the Elan propaganda route.
Yes, out of state, definitely.
And what would they script you to go out and talk, or would you
No,
just...
I kind of, I won't say scripted, but I instinctively, from discussions and meetings and how they were gearing, how he wanted things answered. When parents that were concerned about their kids, and, like, what about if they're smoking pot? Like, okay, here's the thing. Pot's okay. Let them smoke pot. But how's their grades? How are they relating to their parents? How are they? And they had me pretty much, I knew how to.
How about Joe Ritchie? How did he treat you? Did you like Joe?
I liked his dogs better than I liked him, and they were mean-ass Dobermans.
The Dobermans, I
They
remember
bit,
Dobermans. I
and they
remember.
just randomly bit people.
What
I
year-
like,
what years-
no,
what
I
years
just
were you
didn't
there?
trust him, and I did whatever.
What years were you there?
80 to 80. I graduated
Okay.
high school there, 80 to 81.
And what was the craziest time at Elan that you can remember? The one that you sit back sometimes and go, I still can't believe I saw that happen.
I was going over that in the back of my head as, I guess while you were driving here, because I was like thinking some of the crazy stuff that I, saw and had to do too. And was very, it's shocking the trauma that hits an adolescent, especially when an adolescent's already just so naturally screwed up.
Yeah.
I have 2 kids. They're naturally messed up.
Yeah, they come.
Have
they,
so much going on,
come
and
in
then
and-
we're going to abuse you a little bit. We're going to make you run in the snow with no clothes except your underwear and 4 feet of snow. Or how about we come in and we're going to, I saw, the worst, and it was a succession of things. It wasn't just one thing. There is one thing that sticks out that really rattled me. Like I started feeling sick in my stomach, and I was seeing a lot of stuff, but this kind of like, I don't want to
Well,
see.
sure. I was there in '75 when they started developing all the
Well,
things
Bob
we were seeing.
Oldham, I was a protege of Bob Oldham. This is how I look back on it. Bob Oldham kind of molded me on what they want, like as far as what we're going to do. And then once he was kind of done with me, then they gave me to Jeff, and down in Bowling Springs from Oxford, whatever, 6. I was at 6 with Bob for a while. And believe me, I'm glad. I was so happy to leave because Bob was scary. Bob beat this girl.
Bob Oldham.
Yes, where blood was literally coming through her jeans from the clipboards. I remember him just going, wham, and they would bust apart. And then he'd go, give me another one. Bam, and it would bust apart. And then eventually I'm looking and I'm seeing and she was gagged and basically hogtied. It rattled me because the whole house was shot down at that time. And I wanted nothing more than to survive it, them tearing apart your stuff, like military,
Right.
tear it up, put it back together. That was constant 24/7, just scrub over here, down there, why people would yell at you with that. I mean, I escaped that the minute that I left there and was put on the Elan 3.
You told me in one conversation we had previously that you did about the Nightman with the flat iron.
Yeah, that was down the hall. Not
waterfront.
down the hall, but down the street from Elan 6. There was I forget the number.
The modern house, wasn't
Yes.
it? Yeah, the A-frame house.
Yeah, and these kids apparently down at the dorms, they were employing, which I never saw an employed security guard myself,
Neither did I ever. when I was
except this guy down there. And a lot of them were really young juveniles down there, like 13. And anyways, I guess a couple of them during the night wanted to escape, and their idea, from what I heard, was they wanted to knock him out. Like in the movies, you go kerclunk and he goes out, and then you run away. Only the guy didn't go out, and they kept beating him over the head with an iron.
Wow.
And I don't know if the man lived or not. All I remember was going down there, seeing the scene, seeing the blood everywhere. Kind of like, like a little bit of excitement because I don't know, at that time,
Right.
I'm kind of like part of this whole, but I'm the good guys. And now we're going to go look for him. Looking under the barn out back, and just that whole
Well, you had to be a little nervous out there with
Oh.
the guys with a flat iron.
Maybe they stepped it up.
don't know.
I don't
I
know,
don't know.
but that night, I got by. I got through.
You're on.
Hunting down a couple of crazed, lunatic adolescents.
Remember their names or no?
No,
No.
not at all.
Whose house was it?
It wasn't it was the security guy for them.
But who was in charge of the house? I guess.
Oh,
That's a better way
I
to ask
can't
that.
remember
Was it
that.
Gottlieb or
No, it wasn't. No,
David Eldert? Was he still around then when you were there?
no,
Or
he
no?
was not.
Peter McCann, was he around when you were still there? Or no?
That name rings a bell.
Big, goofy looking guy with googly eyes and a big walrus mustache. Just a bully. He's a real big guy.
Right.
No.
This Alice Dunn.
Yeah, she's very popular. I've talked to a few people about her.
Man, that woman, from the minute I got to Elan 3, she put me in the dishwasher. Whatever, I didn't care. I was out of Bob Oldham's grip. Only it all worked out because he drilled something into me that scared the shit out of me. And he didn't live there. I used to go to his house, where he lived, and in his basement he had a heavy bag. And I would work out on the heavy bag with him and talk.
So would you think of him in your experience with him as a good guy or a bad guy?
I think he was a good guy, but horribly misguided. He was an ex-junkie. He was a singer, I think, at one time. He had loads of personality. But his flaw, I think he was cruel. Inherently just had this mentality of prison, of institution, of fuck you.
No, I think I understand what you're saying. I've said that to many people that, it's a difference. Hating the staff there is a general term and it's fair. But yet, in some cases, it's not fair because you had some people that did things just because that's how
They
it was.
enjoyed.
And then
There's
you had-
other
yes,
people
and then
that
you had other people that
enjoyed
truly
this.
enjoyed their job. It's like the guard in prison. Some guys are just trying to pay their
Right.
bills.
Then there's
the other guys
ones
will work
poking the bear.
They'll work
Or
for,
the zookeeper
they'll work
poking
for,
that
exactly.
bear.
They'll work for free
Let's
if they can.
see it suffer.
And I think
And they
I
put-
think
yeah.
Elan was a good place to turn out a lot of narcissists. If you're a narcissist going into place, that was a direct place you should be, is Elan School for narcissism. But if you weren't a narcissist and you were a pretty balanced person, and people like yourself and other guys that went there and girls, and they were just little minor, basically screw ups. So they didn't deserve that. Some kids, I think, yes, Elan was a good place to send some people, but not everybody in the room.
Yeah.
When you were a senior coordinator, what you told me your task was to, you were the sign creator.
Well, I did. Pretty much being groomed, I think, to be a staff member. I think that's what a senior coordinator is because you're in charge of the whole deal
Right.
of every department. And each department is geared one way or another. You will be, I guess, I'm sorry, it's the word I'm gonna.
Mentored?
No. When you come in, you're classified.
Oh, okay.
The place that you end up in, whether it's communications, which is the making things, or if they think that might be creativity and all that, and you're very cerebral and you're very and that might be a real problem for you, you're going there.
Right.
Or certain little things, that's where they would try to gear you to fail. And then you would. In one way or another, you would.
Well, you were set up for failure. That
You
was
were
the thing about
going to.
Elan. There was no real succession because when I was there, at least in the 70s and 75, I've seen reentry get pulled back in. I've seen senior coordinators get shot down to sandbags.
Oh, yeah.
So they always
Yeah.
left you kind of on this rope of dependency. To where
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
There goes everything. There goes your condo. There
Everything-
goes your...
everything,
Oh,
everything goes. Was Danny Benison around when you were there?
Benison.
Danny Benison. Or Michael Skeckel. No, Michael Skeckel's probably before you.
He was before me, but just barely because I just missed when he got. I had a lot of Venezuelan persuasion people, a whole ton of them.
Well, there was some guy named Elan there, they claimed, that started his own little cult.
I was in the football team. I forgot to bring this up. I was on the football team of Elan.
Oh, boy.
It was concussion city every time I got the ball. They had us on film. Literally, I used to return punts with this other kid. They had us on film because the one guy this game always kicked to the one side. Neither of us wanted that side, so we were fighting over trying to push each other over to that side.
That's funny.
Because those corn-fed Maine kids, I don't think we won a game. Maybe we did win one game. But I was always great in practice, man. I was fast and nobody... No, not in those games. We all got crushed.
Who was the ones that coached all this?
I can't even remember. I do remember... Shit. That's a good question.
So I know Peter McCann was involved in that.
Maybe it was...
Again, he was a big walrusy-looking guy with googly eyes, just a bully. You'd have.
I just remember that was the most horrifying thing I could have done that summer, was doing that football bullshit. Because we sucked. There was a bunch of city stoner kid. What the fuck were we doing playing corn-fed, mountain kids drink fucking
100-pound bales of hay.
Yeah, I'm from Connecticut. I'm in the They don't care what gang you're in.
Oh, is that funny?
You just got your head crushed.
That's funny.
That in itself had its little perks too, being on the football team and got to go take a bath afterwards.
What was the worst general meeting you ever saw? The worst, the one that you go,
That's the one where that girl with the blood coming through her pants. But I saw some that were brutal. Were
they still using electric sauce when you were around? That's they would just take anything. They could take anything they could and put it in a 5-gallon bucket or a bucket around whatever was there. Ephesus, God only knows what was in the bucket, and they'd pour it on people during general meetings.
They didn't, they might as well got a bucket of spit because of all the spit being thrown from the people yelling and screaming the profanities and whatever they called it. Go on, yell at him, get your feelings off for this jerk, this scumbag, let him know how we feel.
How many GMs did you have?
I never had one.
God bless you.
I never... I always did skate.
Now, don't they accuse you? They ever accused you of skating the program?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I did get dealt with once, but the thing is that I had that weird relationship going on with my director at one time, Lexi Quant.
Right.
That was 10 years older than I was, and as we all know. That age, boy, not allowed to have sex, frustrated as all, whatever.
All right, sure.
And so easily manipulated.
So you're saying she let you get your feelings off with her?
Oh, she did. We had general meetings, like just her and I. Generally speaking.
Contact encounter groups.
Generally speaking. So, yeah, encounter groups.
What'd you think of the groups?
I thought some of them ran correctly, actually had an effect and actually did a positive outcome. Other times they were quite possibly they had an amateur doing a professional's job and he was just doing an okay job, but the kid is having a therapy done, like Primal Scream, done, and this kid's gearing it towards like, I hate cornflakes. You dumbass, it's not cornflakes the kid hates, it's his dad for punching him, whatever. Right. You got an idiot doing a job that should be done by somebody that's trained.
Who was your favorite staff member?
Lexicon. Just
Well, outside of her.
outside of her, Jeff Gottlieb, I'd say,
Gottlieb.
because he was fair. He gave me a sign once because Jennifer Pease is out there dying because of me because she escaped. I came up in the security part of the house, and I was really because I knew how to delegate. I knew the kids to really get the job done. I knew how to do that.
Who was the one you hated the most? The ones you just would run over with a car if you had the opportunity to. Then, of course, not right now.
Has the place been bulldozed yet?
Not yet. No, they're still holding out on that.
I think we should shoot the Hollywood version of the documentary. I think that
No, that's not a Hollywood version. That's made by us.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying we need to do a Hollywood version.
Oh,
like,
shoot! As far as
not
film,
a documentary,
right?
but a real a rehab in the woods, because you're going to have to repackage that shit because they're not going to get it.
Well, the
really.
problem with places like Elan or Straits Incorporated or the White House is that you have such stuff to in such excess that you'll frighten people out of the theater. That's why our documentary, when we produced this thing, was geared more in between that, because if you really gave them the first 5 years or 10 years of it in the 70s, everybody walked out. They couldn't have took it. The 80s,
Right.
The 80s would have been just as bad, So
Right.
really, you couldn't give that to people right from the gate. Now, this is a version here. It's kind of, in my opinion, a bit watered down, but it's
Right.
palatable, and it gives you insight, especially for a survivor. You're seeing what it's all about. You already know what the bad stuff is. And it really it's hard for people to understand, which is good. I'm glad they don't understand
Right.
just what happens in these places, and then the long-term effect down the road. I mean, people, they become successful, they do their thing, they get along. There's a lot of people who just can't get past that rock, and it's not just Elan did that to him, but
Right.
treatment in general did that to him, because Elan wasn't the only poor treatment most people received. There was a lot of bad treatment, period.
Right.
And there's a long-term effect of that, and that's what I see the fight a lot.
But I do think that there is unmistakable, I think, if there's blame or responsibility to be taken for a lot of abuse and trauma that absolutely has no other way than to give you PTSD. If you don't, well then you've got to be a fucking robot.
Right.
And then you still need help, So that place, really, I mean, the more that you think about the people, just the stuff that I wonder where this person is. I wonder what happened to that person. I wonder, I thought we were like best friends, and I remember, making a pact with this guy. I wonder what happened there. Just weird. But most of all, I always thought about Bob Oldham, and I tried to look at, but I think he was like unreachable. And that was even like years ago.
Well, all the staff that were pretty unreachable once you were outside the fence. Joe's famous thing when we were there was you always have a home, you can always come back and blah, blah, blah. But
not so
once you were
much.
over the fence, if you try to call anybody up or talk to somebody,
You're
like
out.
I tried to contact
You're
guys,
out.
they didn't even recognize your phone call.
Nope.
No.
I noticed that too.
Did you ever work at the racetrack?
No, but I did used to drop off his babysitters all the time at his house with the.
Now, when you say babysitters, you make that almost sound like his
I don't know
pick
what.
of the day.
I don't know.
No,
I don't know what he did with them, but
no.
I don't know. Did girls ever talk about what they did over there? I don't know.
I've heard stories, but then again, stories are stories. And,
Right.
It's
Right.
Everybody's
It's
got a
hearsay.
different picture to paint.
Right. Joe never tried to fuck me in the ass.
Well, not you. Well, no. How about Golly?
He only tweaked my nipples, and that was trying to get the answers out of me.
Golly was always that kind of blousy look and those big bell
He
bottoms,
was.
the elephant belt.
He was like fabulous.
He was a
today.
bit defiant. Yeah, he was,
Well, he's very Jewish for Maine,
very, too Jewish for
Yes,
me. That's a
too
very,
Jew for Maine.
He You know, in my memory, so he was not a bad guy. You know,
No, he wasn't. No.
But then I always
No.
remember too, though. Even from childhood, growing up the way I did, and a lot of trouble I got into, that there was always a good cop, bad cop thing, and that's kind of what that place fit the best. There's people who tell you Marty Krulik was the best thing since sliced bread. He's one of the worst people I ever met. You know, and other people like that were Gottlieb. You know, but then people tell you stories about Gottlieb, about what a bastard he was.
Do
and
you
how
have
good he is.
pictures of all these people?
Not really current ones. Some old ones. You know, why do you get a card of them? Or
No, but I just want a yearbook for my fucking high school that I graduated from because they changed the name. So at that time when I was there, it was called Pinehenge.
Pinehenge in Waterford, correct?
Right, that's where I
And
went.
that was a hippie school.
Oh, really?
In the day before Elan got it. Before Elan got
Right,
it,
yeah.
Pinehenge School was a school for like a kind of, I want to say a hippie school. I don't
Right.
even think it was any type of disciplinary thing to do with it. It's just, you know.
No, it was a school because
Yeah.
it was separate, though.
Yes.
You would do that, and I'll never forget the only memory
Well,
of
Pinehenge
that
School was exactly where it's located. They used to live right in the farmhouse there.
Right,
all that
and then
stuff, yeah.
right there. So, now it's just silly what I was going to talk about on that one. It's
What's
just
that?
this guy blew the teacher there because they were free. They were not part of Elan. They were
Right.
just teachers. And this guy had the biggest bubble of a booger you have ever seen in your entire life. And then it popped on his beard. And then he left it.
Wow.
Yep, just a thought. That and the fear of not or failing there because you don't want to be wearing no dunce cap. Those dumps, I just didn't. Public humiliation, people do not realize the impact and the power of that. It's more powerful than so many other things.
Well, they have
'cause
a-
I'm a parent.
Did they
and
have house?
I
Did they have house rejection when you were there?
like
where you were
send
invisible?
them down to the lake and make them move rocks?
No,
and-
they had a thing called house rejection, and what the whole house would do is, you know, nobody's talking to Kevin, period. And you would be in the midst of 250 people, 220 people, or whatever it was, and you were virtually invisible. Nobody
Right.
recognized
Right.
you. You could talk, scream, yell, and they just walk by you like you were an absolute ghost. Because God forbid anybody stop and talk to you.
They're in the shit can
they'd
now
joining you.
too.
They'd be joining you somewhere
Yep.
too. So
Some separate corner of hell.
house rejection, they just ignore you.
Yeah.
That got to you too after a while. I saw
I
you
can
people
imagine.
drive you nuts.
Well, see, this kid named Howard, I just know his name was Howard. And I remember the discussion was, especially with staff, and I'm pretty sure towards the doctor side of this particular patient, because he was so far messed up, okay,
Right.
mentally. Like he had severe mental, like maybe damage.
Right, right.
Okay, perhaps. He was, his arms were leather. He really, it was a huge kid. He was young, but he was
Bamforth?
huge. Huh?
Howard Bamforth? He was like Joe's right hand man.
No.
Worked the
This
track?
is
No.
not even close to being like this kid was on the verge of retardation.
Oh, that. Okay, I get it.
That's what I'm saying. He was like on the verge
Wow.
of we can't keep a retard here. Or what? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's revert that to mentally challenged.
So what would they try to do to this kid? Make him straight again, or not straight? But
Well, I'll give you a
correct
few
his-
examples. I really don't know what they're because at the time I was just a senior. I don't even know, but I was in charge of kind of the hallways, and Howard was always doing some kind of insane shit. Like he'd be like running through the place, bowling people over. Finally, we got 6 of us on top of him. Like, what are you doing, Howard? I'll never forget. What are you doing? And he goes, I'm jogging. Okay, you can't do that, And then we put it. He was like, and then like you could see him like lurking. He just. Because they took all his meds. I mean, I'm sure that you remember that there are no meds, allowed at this place.
No drugs in allowed.
So this kid's off all his psychotics, his brain, whatever's messed up with this kid. He's running the hallways, bowling people over. I'm jogging. Another one, Howard, what are you doing? He grabs the banana, skin and all, shoves it right in his mouth and chews it up and eats it. Like, what? Why'd you do that? And he's like, I'm hungry. This kid did not, it was not an act. I saw.
How long did they keep him for?
To be honest, I don't know. I just remember the last time that I had to deal with him was I had to call his parents, and they were going to talk to him because it was after that jogging incident. Because he was just not conforming. This kid is not getting it at all.
Right.
And whatever you do to him, it's almost like beating up, So,
it's
I get his parents on the phone, and I think it's his dad, and I hand the phone to him, and I go, it's your dad. And he's like, it's, what? You're not my dad? And hung up on him.
Wow.
And this was just like, I don't think he belongs here.
So why didn't Elan make an effort to?
He wasn't the only, one of those,
But Elan didn't try to.
They wanted that money. They got that money. And I don't think that kid, he might have graduated. I don't know. But
Really?
he certainly was still blowing bubbles or whatever his brain malfunction was, because he was not like the other kids.
That's pretty sad to hear, because there were kids like that when I was there too. Kids that just quite weren't like the rest of the kids on the block.
Make it.
And you're not going to change somebody who has issues or whatever.
Well, some of those
And you're just
pharmaceuticals
not
those
gonna-
kids were on were direly needed, and Schwartz, of all people, should have known this. He should have known this kid needs these.
How about gay people? How'd they treat the gay people when you were there?
To be honest, at that time, I don't even remember really and outwardly gay. I think that they were, but they just weren't.
When I was there,
Fancy pants.
they were very homophobic when I was there, and they would
Right.
really put you out there,
Well, yeah,
put you in
you
dresses,
don't-
and
right.
just be
They would,
ruthless with these kids.
especially, I would imagine. I never saw a sissy, but not a. If they were gay, they were butched up because they were so scared they didn't want to seem sissified or whatever.
Right.
So they, Christ, I don't know. I just never noticed any of the homosexuals because.
How about blacks? They have a lot of
Yeah,
blacks,
you could
no
tell.
blacks.
Yeah, I noticed that, especially like in the boxing ring. I remember Bob Oldham put this one kid from Connecticut, I think, because there was a group of kids getting sent by the state. The state was sponsoring.
From Long Lake School.
Right, they were getting sponsored. And that was a touchy thing, too, about the lawsuits. So, this kid, where was I? The Connecticut. Oh, yeah,
Connecticut,
he
yes.
went through so many rounds in the boxing ring. Like, round after I saw him trying to figure it out, like, but you're not going to win, buddy, because new guy,
Right.
new guy. But he went like a record, like beyond anybody's ever.
Really?
Like so many over. Like we were like, God dang, look at him
You're
go.
running out of people.
Like he had it figured out. Like, yeah, we're back again. We're going to have to go through the house again.
Oh my gosh.
Right, this kid.
But did they have a lot of black people there when you were there? Because in the 70s they really
No.
didn't. There was very few, because Joe
No.
was really prejudiced. Joe was a racist
It
kind
wasn't.
of guy.
Just we had imports from Venezuela, and they were very rich. I think the one kid, Federico Pineda, he was, his parents were military, I think, in the Venezuelan, government. And they had helicopters and shit. So,
How do you-
he and I graduated at the same time. We had motorcycles together and used to work there and go to work.
And why do you think Joe had such a feeding from that area? Venezuela's, it's
Look,
it's obviously a distance from
Look,
me.
you say to yourself, what's the connection?
Yeah.
And I'm sure at the time it was said, they have adolescents and kids in trouble there too. But why the
But you would think
Nobody's
that's such a far place
something's
with
going
the
on.
lack of the internet and the lack
know,
of
but
really social
something
media
was
for
going
somebody
on. money
in
was
Venezuela to be there. It just, how did people all the way down in Venezuela ever even hear about this
It
place?
wasn't cheap.
It wasn't cheap, and how would
They
hear
were
about
running
this,
it on shoestrings.
running in this place in the middle of nowhere? How
It
would
ran
these guys-
itself.
You know, how
You got
would
3-5 people running the whole.
all the patients ran the asylum.
Right, so really, and then the food,
That was quite a place when I was there.
it was 30 grand. I forget what it was a year, but whatever the Venezuelans were paying, I bet it was a lot more than that. Somehow somebody was putting big money, international money, because we had a whole pocket of them.
Really?
I remember the one guy, he looked 30. I think he was like old. His
Yeah,
name,
we had older people when we were
his
there
name
too.
was it was last name Jaime Ziegelbaum. He was a Spanish
That's
Jew.
a mouthful.
I know.
That's a mouthful.
Jaime Ziegelbaum. He was a Spanish Jew, and that guy looked exactly like Julio Iglesias.
Really?
Yes, exactly.
And how did the Venezuelan kids get along?
The
Did
one was hot,
they
that
speak English or no?
I think like one or two of the
how do you
girls,
pull
like
up
bits and
How
pieces,
do you
but
pull up, but how do you pull somebody up that speaks Spanish?
it
That
doesn't matter. They're
I-
paying a lot of money, and we're gonna fix them. Whatever.
But how do you deal with them in the house when how they even know what you're saying to them? In other words, you want to direct them in a direction of something, and you're giving them a pull up or telling them something, and they truly
Right.
don't
I
understand.
think that there was a certain amount of the language barrier with a few of them, but for the most part, they spoke English, or it been it's just they studied it.
What was the worst general meeting you ever saw one of them get? Did they not get really brutal general meetings? Because they were pretty
Yeah.
liberal with general meetings. You didn't have to be anything special not to get one. Anyone could
Right.
get a general meeting. It was good
Right.
for anyone.
That's the really
It was
fun part
universal.
about living in that
It
situation.
wasn't just you. You never felt left
You
out.
could
It was
at any
everybody.
moment have the rug ripped out, and suddenly your face is hitting the concrete.
The guy you were the ring.
You are like wham, like a cartoon, smacking your face against the
The
concrete.
guy was hyperventilating and spitting in your face last week is the same guy you're doing it to this week.
Didn't I abuse you? Yes. Thank you.
Oh, Lord.
I'm repaying the favor. I met a guy in the halls of Chino prison. I mean, the city's in Chino, California.
Right.
It's the Southern Reception Center for anybody that's been sent to prison from the southern counties. So I was sent to prison, and I went there, and furthest thing from my mind is Maine and Elan.
Right.
Here's this kid, calls me out, says, I know you from Maine. You fucked me up. You did this. I'm like, I know. I don't remember you particularly, but I do not doubt you.
Right.
Because where did this come from? So, yeah, there was that. I forget that. I don't even remember the kid's name now, but
Right.
it was just bizarre to be running into
The
another
world's
kid.
small. The world's small. I learned that
Yeah,
over the years of traveling around, and you'd be surprised who you run into and where you run into them. It makes no sense.
Right.
Why? What are you doing in Cleveland? You're from Florida. I'm from Chicago. We'd have
Right.
to bump into each other in Cleveland.
Right.
Neither one has a really special reason why it's why you have to be so careful how you go through life. It's okay to bump somebody's shoes, but don't step on them because you might have to need that person. That person, you never know. Man. You never know.
How's the saying go? Be careful of the toes you step on. They might be attached to the ass you have to kiss later.
This is true.
That's
is
a good
very,
saying.
Very,
I've always liked that saying.
it's a very, very true statement. You know.
It's true as hell.
Now, there's people on the world address there, the president did, and they brought up the story about the father. I believe it was the car broke down, and he was walking along, and
Right.
he found some guy on the side of the road that was homeless and needed a coat because he was freezing his butt.
Right.
So he gave him his coat, but by the time they come pick him up, because he called him for a ride, he goes, "Daddy, where's your coat at?" She goes, "I gave it to the guy back there. He's a homeless guy." She goes, "Why'd you do that?" I said, "Because I knew you were coming to get me, and nobody's coming to get him." You know.
Right.
And that guy could have been a millionaire sitting down there. You never know.
You never know.
Just kind of feeling out
You
the
never
world.
know.
Just trying to feel out the world.
Take a bong rip. Would you care for one?
So, what is your last best story of Elan? And how do you feel Elan left you at this point in your life?
I think my best and perhaps fondest memory, because it's not a negative, because it's mixed, because there's so much going on, was the night that John Lennon died. I was doing a night owl and had the radio and was listening, and I just remember it was winter and it was snowing that night, I think, and it was just the quietness of those trees and just the memory of that place, I guess, just the landscape, the buildings themselves. They, I think, to be there now would a little bit freak me out, because I do think that objects can hold, and the screaming and the emotions and things that happened there was as good as any nut house or prison. So, to say to, I don't know, not one particular thing.
How do you think it left you in the end to where you're at now?
I think in one aspect, better equipped to deal with the world than most. And in another, and I mean psychologically, and to deal with people and read people and know, quickly, what you're dealing with. In that aspect, yeah, stronger. But in the other aspect, so untrusting and damaged by the people in authority, people that were supposed to be teaching me, and there was supposed to be method to that madness, and there really wasn't method to that madness. It was just somebody's method, and we won't. I won't point.
And you were just a kid, weren't you?
Yeah, I was, but I was not stupid. I was 17.
Yeah, just a kid.
I knew I was being toyed and manipulated, and I think they knew. I was just happy that they weren't putting me in that general meeting. That place really, overall, it equipped me, I think, better for prison. I was never raped, and I ended up always, it seemed to, I don't care how big they were or whatever, mentally I would manipulate the hell, and I'd be running things like the coordinate. We're going to have to keep, if you're going to be doing that, we got to keep an eye out, or just a natural, we're going to have to do security on this thing.
Right.
I always was,
Well, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the interview. I appreciate your time and your honesty, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Mark.
Thank you
My
for that.
pleasure.